Hello everyone, welcome back to Accounting 1329, Payroll and Business Tax Accounting. This is Dr. Mercado speaking. This particular week we are going to begin covering a brand new chapter. This is chapter 3, which deals with Social Security taxes. Okay. Very important to please make sure that you've read the chapter before you've attempted any of your assignments. Okay. In this particular lecture we are going to be going over problem 3.3a. Please just general announcements. Like I stated earlier, please make sure that you review your syllabus to make sure that you are aware of all of the assignments and deadlines that need to be completed. I've had several students reach out to me that they aren't able to complete their assignments within the allotted time frame. Please make sure that you schedule your time accordingly. All of the students have the same amount of time during the week to complete the assignments. The assignments are open on Monday and they close on Sunday. So please make sure that you organize your time to ensure that you are able to meet all of the deadlines within the week. Okay. Like I stated earlier, having a job is not an excuse. So we need to be able to say, okay, on Monday, I'm going to read the chapter. On Tuesday, I'm going to review the PowerPoints and complete my quiz. On Wednesday, I'm going to begin working on my homework problems and I'll work on 2 problems a day. Okay. You need to be able to lay out an organized plan as to how are you going to complete your assignments. You starting your homework on Sunday night at 9 p.m. is not going to cut it. Okay, because you might not understand a lot of the things. You're going to be lost. You're going to be under pressure and you're not going to get things done. So do not wait for late Sunday night to start working on your assignments. Okay. So just a general announcement to please stay organized. The deadlines are clearly stated on your syllabus. No extensions unless there is a documented emergency. But if there is no emergency, then we should have more than enough time. 7 days is more than enough to work on your weekly assignments. Okay. So let me go ahead and let me jump over to problem 3.3. Okay. So problem 3.3 deals with some tips and some regular earnings for a tipped employee. So here the problem states, Ernie Gilmore began working as a part-time waiter on June the 1st at Sport House Restaurant. The cash tips of $390 that he received during June were reported on Form 4070, which he submitted to his employer on July the 3rd. During July, he was paid wages of $525 by the restaurant. We are to compute the OASDI and HI for the amount of FICA taxes that the employer should withhold from Gilmore's wages during July, as well as the amount of the employer's FICA taxes on Gilmore's wages and tips during July. Okay, so here we have a scenario where we have a part-time person, working at a restaurant and earning tips. Okay. Please go back and read from chapter 2 or reread the section that deals with tips. There's a lot of information in chapter 2 that goes over tips, and I am not going to go over the entire section. Okay. Now in this particular example, we are going to assume that the employee is getting paid the minimum requirements for a tipped employee and that the cash tips are extra, okay, because they don't provide us with any additional information whether they were paid or how many hours they worked, so we could be able to calculate if the employee was getting paid the required amount for tipped employees. Remember that the minimum cash wage for tipped employees is $2.13. If the employee does not make up the difference in tips, then the employer is responsible to make that up. Okay, but in this case, the employee is getting paid wages, so I'm assuming that the company has taken care of making sure that he meets or he is being paid to based on all of the requirements for a tipped employee, and that the $390 are just extra tips that he earned on the side. Okay, so make sure that you read over, go back, and if you don't recall information about tips from chapter 2, you go back and you read the section over again. Now in that section, it does mention that the employee is required to report tips to the employer each month. So the employee is responsible to keep track of how much tips they accumulate for that 1 month. So during the month of June, the Ernie accumulated $390 in tips. Okay, so he waits for the end of the month, he accumulates the information, he completes Form 4070, and he submits it to his employer. The following month, the employer is going to deduct the applicable taxes on those tips. So the tips are basically behind 1 month. Okay, so the tips are paid in June. the taxes are paid in July because we have to wait on the employee to report on it, okay? So, letter A. Remember, for OASDI and HI, the employee puts in a portion, the employer puts in the other portion, okay? They pay equivalent amounts, okay? So the employer is going to deduct from Ernie Gilmore's paycheck the OASDI and the HI tax, okay? The OASDI rate is 6.2%. The HI rate is 1.45%. Okay, remember OASDI stands for Old Age Survivors Disability Insurance. And then we have HI, which is basically your health insurance, okay? Your Medicare and all of that, okay? So we have letter A. The amount of FICA taxes that the employer should withhold from Gilmore's wages. How much are we going to take out from Gilmore from the July paycheck, okay? So we know that in the month of July, Gilmore earned $525, okay? We also learned that Gilmore reported $390 of tips. Okay, so these are the wages. Let me go ahead and put here wages. That way we know these are the wages. Plus, we know that Gilmore reported $390 of tips from the prior month. Okay, so in this month, we are reporting the total of the two. We hadn't reported the tips yet. Remember, the tips are a month behind. So this month, we have to report the tips and we have to report the wages. And we have to pay taxes on both of those because both of them are, wages. We receive that money, so we need to pay, we are liable for taxes for them, okay? So we're going to add those two together. We've got 525 and 390. So that means that during the month of July, Ernie earned $950, or $950 is taxable for wages, okay? So even though the 390 were earned last month, they were not reported. They're reported in July. So that means that in July, we're going to deduct the applicable taxes on those tips earned. Okay. So now that I know that Gilmore earned $915, I can go ahead and I can get my calculator and I can say, okay, the employee earned $915 in total, wages plus tips. Okay. And I know that we need to deduct from his paycheck, and I'm going to multiply that by 6.2%. And that is going to give me a deduction of $56.73. Okay, so we're going to deduct $56.73 for OASDI. And then for HI, I'm going to get the $915 and I'm going to multiply the 1.45%. And that's going to give me 13.2675. Be careful on your rounding. We're going to look at that third digit. If that third digit is a 5 or greater, we are going to round that second digit up. So that means that this amount is going to convert to 13.27. Okay. So what are we doing? We're just getting the total wages, tips plus wages. And once we get the 915, we multiply the 915 times my OASDI rate and my HI rate. Okay. And then we get the tax amounts. These are the amounts that we're going to take out of Ernie Gilmore's paycheck. So we're going to deduct this amount because these are the taxes that he owes based on the earnings for the month. Okay. Now the employer is going to match that. Okay. The employee and the employer both pay 6.2% and 1.45%. Okay. So the amount of the employer's FICA taxes on Gilmore wages and tips during July, where we're basically going to be replicating what we did up here. We have to basically match what the employee is going to get paid or going to pay in taxes. Okay, so if the employee is going to pay $56.73 in taxes, then it's going to be the same calculation. We are paying, employer is paying taxes on the 915. Okay, of wages for Gilmore. So that would mean that the employer, which is Sport House Restaurant, would also have to pay $56.73 for OASDI and $13.27 for HI. And remember, how are we calculating that? We get the total, 915 times 6.2%. That gives me the $56.73. We get the 915 times the 1.45%. And that gives me my 13.27. Okay. So the key here is to make sure that we include the tips. the tips are always going to be behind 1 month. Okay, so the employee accumulates it, the following month he reports it. Okay, we're going to always be paying for tipped employees, we're going to be paying the current month's wages plus last month's tips. And that's how we're going to calculate the taxes due for OASDI and HI. Okay, so please make sure that you review section 21J, which deals with tips. The calculations for tipped employees are basically like any other calculation for any other wages. It's just a matter of making sure that we include our tips in our calculation. Okay, so very quick, very easy. If you have any questions, please make sure to reach out to me. And that's it for this particular lecture. Until next time.